Dr. Holt Matthews, is it not somewhat unusual for a doctor to treat the members of his own family?
It is perhaps uncommon. There's nothing unethical about it.
Your wife, then, is she also a patient of yours?
Not my wife, no.
But Gail is.
Perhaps I should explain that as Gail is under my guidance as far as diet and physical training are concerned, it always seemed a good idea that I should be responsible for her general health as well.
All part of her grooming as a future champion?
You could put it that way, yes.
Doctor, would you describe yourself as an indulgent parent or a strict one?
I wouldn't describe myself as either. I try to take a common sense view. I might be strict or indulgent according to the circumstances.
But it might be fair to say that on the whole you find yourself out of sympathy with the so-called permissive society.
I'm not ashamed of that. I think it leads to a good deal of unhappiness.
Permissiveness, you mean?
I prefer to call it sexual immorality.
It must be difficult for a doctor sometimes to divorce his private opinions on such matters from his professional responsibilities.
I'm sorry, I don't quite follow.
Well, if a patient comes to you with a venereal disease, for instance, it would be your duty to cure him, would it not?
Naturally, if possible.
Would you also consider it your duty to comment on his condition, to give him a moral lecture, for example?
I might point out the dangers of loose living, yes.
I see. And you really consider that part of your duty as a doctor?
If it prevented him from contracting the disease again, yes, it certainly would be.
And in the case of an unmarried mother, you would likewise feel obliged to express your moral disapproval?
As a doctor or as a parent?
In this case, both.
Well, I've already said, when I found Gail to be pregnant, I expressed my distress and anger very forcibly. But it was too late. There was nothing I could do about it.
Oh, Doctor, surely there was something you could do about it.
I've already told you it was a natural miscarriage. No question of anything else.
No, Doctor, you misunderstand me. There was another course open to you. You could have given your consent to their marriage, could you not?
I could have done, yes.
And why didn't you? You've stated that your daughter was prepared to leave home and go and live with Rodney Maitland openly if you refused to give your consent to their marriage. Presumably there's no difficulty in Mr. Maitland supporting your daughter.
That's not the point.
Brilliant tennis player. He can make a great deal of money. A most promising career.
And what about her career?
I beg your pardon?
My daughter has the makings of a first-class player. Strength, self-discipline, the will to win. Is she going to throw all that away?
You know, Doctor, I could have understood it if you had said that you were against the marriage because you thought it would lead to unhappiness for Gail, but to say it would spoil her chances of a silver cup seems trivial in comparison.
Not to me, sir, I assure you.
Oh, no, sir, I can see that. You're a remarkably single-minded man, aren't you, Doctor? You do just about anything to have a champion in the family?
My lord, my learned friend really mustn't put words into the witness's mouth.
I quite agree, Mr. Fry. Mr. Elliot, if you would like to rephrase that as a question...
No, my lord, let it pass. Doctor, when your daughter fainted, you say she was carried into your surgery and subsequently had a miscarriage. Now, was anyone else present?
My wife. She helped me carry her.
Did your wife remain in the surgery?
No, she went back to the kitchen, I believe. It was the servant's night off. My wife was preparing dinner.
So when the miscarriage took place, you were alone with Gail?
That is correct.
Who was unconscious?
Yes.
So you're the only person who can tell us what took place?
Yes.
Since Gail fainted in her bedroom, surely it would have been wiser to have left her there until she regained consciousness. Why did you take her to your surgery?
As I said, she had minor head injuries. Besides, in a pregnancy, a fall can be dangerous.
So it had already occurred to you that she might lose the baby?
Yes, naturally. I think I said so to my wife.
Who then went back to the kitchen to prepare dinner?
There was nothing she could do to help. She has no medical training.
Doctor, you say that when you were in the surgery with Gail, you dressed her wounds and afterwards dealt with this alleged miscarriage. Did anyone else see what you did?
No, because I told my wife immediately afterwards.
I asked you the question, did anyone else actually see what you did? Please answer the question.
No, no one else saw.
So we only have your word for it, then, that the pregnancy ended in a miscarriage and was not deliberately terminated by an abortion.
I will not have these disgusting allegations made about me. I've been in the medical profession for 20 years.
Well, then perhaps you can tell us, Doctor, is it possible to tell whether a woman has had a miscarriage or whether an abortion has been performed on her?
Yes, of course it is.
An expert examination would reveal this?
Certainly.
Yes. Even with the modern techniques of abortion, even if a woman was only 2 months pregnant?
I believe so, yes.
Would this expert examination have to be carried out soon after the event?
Well, yes.
Was such an examination, in fact, ever carried out?
You must answer the question, Doctor.
My lord, there was absolutely no reason for anyone else to carry out an examination. I'd done everything that was necessary myself.
Very well.
After it was all over, what did you do?
I called my wife and told her what had happened.
Presumably you also told your daughter.
Yes, when she recovered consciousness.
Then what'd you do? Go off and have your dinner?
Certainly not. Gail was in a state of shock. My wife brought me something on a tray.
You ate in the surgery?
Yes.
I see. Well, let us turn to the evening when Mr. Maitland showed up unexpectedly at your house. You had not up until then taken any steps to inform him of the miscarriage, or perhaps I should say the end of Gail's pregnancy.
No, why should I?
He was, according to you, the father of the child. Did you allow your daughter to inform him?
No, and she'd given me her word she'd have no further dealings with him.
So when he arrived at your house on the 29th of June, he knew nothing of all this?
I suppose not.
You broke the news to him by saying, that little problem has been settled by an act of God. Now, Doctor, was that not a remarkably callous thing to say?
He's never struck me as being a particularly sensitive young man.
You're aware that Maitland was found later that evening in a bath with both wrists slashed.
Yes, well, I certainly don't blame myself for that.
You don't think your behaviour had anything to do with it?
He'd already showed that afternoon on the centre court how unbalanced he was. It was almost hysterical.
Unbalanced enough to kill himself if he received a sudden shock. Unbalanced enough to write accusations against the man who gave him such appalling news in such a callous way.
If you want my professional opinion, I don't think he did intend to kill himself.
Doctor,
I think he was only...
Did you examine the injuries of the accused? Did the police call you in?
No.
Then of what possible relevance is your professional opinion?
I am bound to agree with you, Mr. Elliot. Members of the jury, you will ignore the last statement of this witness.
I'm obliged to your lordship. Another point, Doctor. You told my learned friend that after you broke this unhappy news to Mr. Maitland, you told him to clear out.
Yes, I told him not to approach Gail again.
Well, you didn't say anything, though, that could lead him to suppose that you'd carried out an abortion on your daughter.
Certainly not.
Now, is it possible in his state of mind that he honestly believed you to be guilty of such a thing?
Only if he was seriously unbalanced.
We've already stated that he was unbalanced. You gave it as your professional opinion.
Mr. Elliot, really?
Dr. Holt Matthews, when you first realized that Gail was pregnant, why did you make no attempt to contact Mr. Maitland?
I've already told you. He was in California.
Yes, but you could have written to it. The American Lawn Tennis Association or some such body could presumably have found him even in California.
And what would be the point?
He was the father of the child. And as such, he had certain responsibilities, obligations, did he not?
Yes, certainly. But I had no confidence he'd honour them.
He couldn't if he didn't know.
I don't think it would have made any difference one way or the other. It's quite obvious the kind of man he is.
You consider yourself a shrewd judge of character, no doubt.
Yes, a doctor has to be. As far as Maitland is concerned, he'd made a very unfavourable impression.
Oh? And when did you form this impression? When he first visited your house? When you were encouraging him to make use of your tennis court? Showing him off to your friends?
No, it was later. I decided he was entirely irresponsible.
I suggest, Doctor, that your daughter's career was more important to you than her pregnancy. That it was you that decided against this marriage, and furthermore, that you'd already decided that Gail would never have this child.
Nothing of the kind. It was exactly as I said it was. An act of God.